Today I'm going to talk about uh, Revit 2023, right? So I want to assume that all of you here today, you're here because you want to be on the forefront of technology. You probably geek out on this type of thing. I know I do. I know Dana does. I'm pretty sure Jason does, and a lot of other people here on our panel, as well as you attending, right? As MEP designers and engineers, or even you representing your firm, our technology uses is often dependent or held hostage by our clients, whether those are the owners or the architects that you're working with, right? I want to talk about some improvements with Revit 2023 that could help sway your team and your owners to possibly upgrade those projects from the older versions of Revit to take advantage of those new improvements. Those improvements go across all disciplines, architecture, structure, MEP. There's a lot of generalized improvements, but I'm just going to talk about today is several of the MEP improvements that could help you, with your progression to upgrading. Okay. Make sure I got that right. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is new categories. Right. So in 2023, we finally have a plumbing equipment category. For the last 15 plus years of Revit MEP, we've had to use the mechanical equipment category for plumbing. So now there's a new plumbing equipment category. There's also a new mechanical control device category for your thermostats, your humidistats, or temperature control devices, or things like that, that may have been on like I've used communication devices in the past, or electrical fixtures, or whatever. You may have to do some random workarounds to get that stuff to show up correctly. Now there's new categories. The out-of-the-box families have been switched to these categories, but if you have families built and you want to switch them, you'll have to do that manually. There's also a couple new buttons on the Systems tab for those. Coincidentally, in 2022, about a dozen new categories were added to Revit, but none of them have a button. How do you get those added to your project? Hopefully, we can get that sorted out with Autodesk. I know I did reach out to them about that. Next, I want to talk about the MEP connectors, right? The connectors are really the heart and soul of your families, aside from the rest of the data that you schedule, right? So you transfer information from these connectors into your electrical systems, your duct systems, right? In the past, when you deleted the element that was hosted to, then your connector got deleted and you lost all that information, right? Then you had to re-add it back and then remap everything back to those connectors. It was very cumbersome. We have a workflow at Shive Hattery where we have placeholder families that just have a box and a connector on them. And the premise is that the user downloads a manufacturer content, they embed or nest that family into the placeholder, and then they add the additional mechanical connectors. But the electrical connector is there. And a lot of times they would delete that box and then the electrical connector would disappear. And as a mechanical, they don't know what those parameters are for electrical. So then they can't circuit to that piece of equipment. Now they can embed their families, move that connector, and then delete that box. My big yes moment for 2023 was the release of the maintaining of systems when demolished. In previous versions, when you demolished any of your systems, your content, it all became not orphaned, it was undefined, and you couldn't do anything with it. It lost all of its information. It lost connection to the next piece of equipment that was next to it. The fittings, everything was disconnected and essentially broken. Now, everything is maintained, the system name, the abbreviation, your classification parameters. Everything's connected. When you move it, everything moves together, right? Where everything was independent previously. To me, that's a huge improvement for MEP. And probably my sole reason to upgrade and start using 2023. Now I have a couple electrical specific ones that I want to talk about. This one here is about circuit number, right? So circuit number wasn't available for equipment, electrical equipment. So you couldn't see it in your panel schedule. You couldn't see it in the family. You couldn't, tag it. Now they've opened that up. So now you can tag it. You can include it in your panel schedule. And that information is also in the family information. Something that Mike is going to talk about later in the presentation, so I won't get too much into it, is electrical preliminary load analysis, right? So you can perform electrical loads right in Revit just by defining some areas, giving it some information, and have it do that work for you before you even place any of your families. So Mike's going to get into that in more detail at the end of our last presenter today. Another big electrical one, electrical families are mostly symbolic based, right? If something was on a ceiling and you showed it on a floor plan, it looked differently. The symbol was flipped or reversed, or text within the symbol looked funky when it was on a different orientation on the wall. So now they've improved that in 2023, where that annotation actually flips with the family as it flips over a wall or is visible in the ceiling or the floor plan. So everything looks the same. Now you're probably going to have to go back through all your families and flip them to be the correct way if they're ceiling based. But now they'll look correctly in floor plan and ceiling plan. And then lastly, with the 2023.1 release that was released on November 15th, they've added the ability to have the split with gap function in Revit work with many of the system families for MEP, duct, pipe, conduit, cable tray, even some of the fabrication stuff. You can now use that split for gap, put a gap in your automatic, you can set the spacing, put that gap in that duct. You can drop that duct and connect it up, and as opposed to, split, click on one space, click on another space, and then delete that middle piece. So now it's just split with gap and then move it to where you need it and reconnect it. There's also some fabrication improvements with this release, but I don't use fabrication personally, and I don't know anybody with that uses fabrication. So I didn't include any of that stuff, but there is a link next to my name on the mural for the what's new. If you click on that link, that'll take you to all the what's new information for 23 and 23.1 that you can peruse for yourself. There's a lot of great generalized, sheet layout stuff and whatnot that you can check out. And be sure to use that information to help navigate your teams to a newer version of Revit, as opposed to being stuck in the past. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Jason. Seems like that's kind of a lot and some big things, right? I mean, It seems like those are some real big game changers that we've been asking for a while.
Yes, I know.
Seems like it's kind of like the trend. This latest release, right? They really wanted to publicize how many ideas they made happen with this release, right?
Yep, I saw a LinkedIn post today that Kimberly commented on, that they outlined how many things were done in each of the releases since 2019. And it's just, sometimes it feels like there's not a lot, but if you look over the years, there's a ton of stuff that they've done.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
a lot of.
I know the hosting things from working with Smith Group, with multidisciplinary, that hosting has been such a nightmare, and so hopefully they continue to work on that. But with the connectors, and the holding of content with the demolished, I mean, that's just so much time saved in the overall process when you're going through those things, and you're like, why am I even having to do it? And it's taking me hours, right? So definitely know the struggle. Well, thank you so much. I hope everything at home calms down and, gets back to regular soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
No, absolutely.